I love sports. I have always loved sports. Ever since I was a kid, I always remember being on the playground playing. And a large part of that I credit to growing up in the 90s and being from the defense background. Now, for those of us who grew up in the 90s, video games were restricted to Super Mario, Contra, and to play those, we had to untangle these series of cables. All right? Oh, I know what you're talking about, right? And then, of course, it was restricted to just probably once a week, and that too as a reward for behaving properly. TV channels were like 8 to 9, no Netflix, no Hotstar, no Amazon Prime. Can you even imagine a life like that? No entertainment obviously meant that, no internet obviously meant no other forms of entertainment. And then being an army officer's daughter, I grew up in army cantonments, which meant I always had access to a wonderful children's playground, which my mother always sent me because that is the only place she could get rid of me for a couple of hours each day. But this is not the only reason why I love sports. Sports gave me the freedom and the means to make some of the very initial life decisions of my life. Was it between choosing playing with a Barbie or hitting a ball for a 6? It was the only way I could show to a 15-year-old boy that a 10-year-old girl could play cricket and she could play it well. It gave me the opportunity to make new friends when every time my father got posted to a new location every 3 years, and I had to leave all my friends behind and start over. As I look back, sports has taught me some of the most valuable lessons that define the adult that I am today. And it is these lessons that I would like to share with all of you. And a warning, I am not talking about anything groundbreaking, nothing new, nothing that's going to shatter your world. It is things that we all know, but by just sharing my journey with you all, I would like to make it a little more relatable. So I've always been pretty fairly active in sports in school. I've always been outdoorsy, but due to a two-wheeler accident in college, followed by a knee surgery, any form of sporting activity or any physical activity became rather difficult. And then I went on to pursue my MBA, got a job, moved cities. One thing led to the other, and I just got so busy with life that sports and fitness took a back seat. I always had an excuse to not do something, and even if I did start something, I would not stick to it. Unfortunately, it took to me looking like that to realize that I had to do something about myself and my fitness. Now, before you all get scared, I'm not here to lecture you on how to lose weight. That's not the point. The point is that we get so caught up in these so-called comfort zones that we don't look beyond it. You know? There is always an excuse to not do something, and if you're anything like me, I was a master procrastinator. And even if I would start something, I would not really see it through. And that's what sports taught me. It taught me that if you want to break the monotony, you have to be consistent. And it sounds a little weird, right? A little strange that I'm asking you to do something over and over again just to break the monotony and not to get bored of it. But it's true. Whenever I started something earlier, I would do it for some time, I would see no results, get bored of it and stop doing it. Because in today's time and age, when everything is instant, we look for instant results, we look for instant gratification. And when we don't get that, we get bored. So this time when I, again, for the 100th time, started my fitness journey, I made a small change, a change in my mindset. That no matter what happens, I'm not going to rely on these external confirmations, which I did in the past, to make me feel good about myself. So I'm not going to look at the weighing scale. I'm not going to care about what people say. You know, it's always a boost when people say, oh my God, you really lost weight. So no, I did not rely on that at all. What I relied was on how I felt. And I felt fantastic. I mean, clearly those endorphins were doing work that they're supposed to do. So what started off as, normal, getting up in the morning. That's the worst battle, by the way, getting up in the morning. But I did it. I overcame that. Would get up in the morning, go with my dad for a walk. That soon transitioned into this, run, walk, run kind of a schedule. And I found myself registering for the first 10 kilometers. When I registered for the race, my only aim was to run without stopping. Come D-Day, I ran non-stop, and I died. I was dead at the end of the finish line, right? I crossed the finish line, and I told myself, okay, that felt fantastic. I'm so happy and proud of myself, but God help me if I ever decide to do a meet or more than 10 kilometers. So I decided to keep at it, and I knew that day that I had transitioned into a runner, a 10-kilometer runner specifically. I kept at it. I kept the consistency on. I kept running, kept doing the 10 kilometers, and before I knew it, those 10 kilometers became fairly easy for me. And I realized that with every race, I started to push my boundaries. I started to push my limits I didn't know I even had. I started dreaming big. Now, how many of you knew what the Ironman is before she explained what it was? Wow, great. I mean, most of the time when I started doing this, when I told people that I'm doing the Ironman, they would correlate it to the Ironman Marvel character. You know, like I love Ironman 3000, but it has nothing to do with the movie, right? So just to put things in a little perspective, Ironman is about swimming 3.8 kilometers in the ocean. You then cycle for 180 kilometers. You then finish it off by running a full marathon, which is 42.2 kilometers, and it's done continuously, one after the other. Thank you. When I did my first 10-kilometer run, I had never imagined that I would do the Ironman. I mean, I'll be very honest here, I didn't know what triathlons were. I didn't know what Ironman was. And that time for me, Ironman was the Marvel character, which I loved. And when I signed up for the race, I was scared. I was petrified. I remember spending endless, sleepless nights thinking, what if? What if I can't do it? What if I fail? And that's what sports has taught me. Sports has taught me to be fearless, even when I'm surrounded by self-doubt and nervousness. I never stopped dreaming. I kept dreaming and I kept working towards it. If you can think it, you can do it. You have all the resources available to you right within you. You just need to reach in and tap into that unbound potential. But everything starts with a thought. The question is, what can you imagine for yourself? And like I said, people around me thought I was crazy. They're like, do you seriously want to do this? You want to go all the way to Sweden and not go for a holiday, but torture yourself by doing this? I myself questioned it. I'm like, is this really what I want to do? But despite those several questions and self-doubt, never once did I regret signing up for an Ironman. And that dreaming is the reason why I'm standing before you all today. Because that dreaming made me, on the 20th August 2016, the third Indian woman to ever have done an Ironman. In a population such as ours, over 1 billion, can you even imagine being the third at something? I mean, if that's not something to be proud of, I don't know what is. But even after having achieved this big dream of being an Ironman, I didn't stop there. The following year, I did something called the EBC hike, which is you hike, that's the Everest Base Camp. You hike up to a height of 5,400 meters. I did my second Ironman in Australia. Last year, I competed in a race called the Deccan Cliffhanger, which is a 643 kilometers ultra cycling race. I was cycling non-stop for 34 hours, 56 minutes, and I went on to win it in the women's category. Thank you. Now, I wish this happened just by dreaming, but unfortunately, it doesn't. It doesn't happen that way. I had to put in the hard work. Now, here's the thing. I personally feel hard work is a very loosely and a very often used word, and it's not really understood. What really is hard work? Hard work is something that you invest every fiber of your being is invested into achieving something. When you want something so bad that You will make mountains to make it happen. Then you want something so bad that you will give more than 100%, and that is hard work. When I signed up for the Ironman and I started training for it, I realized that the only way to get there, the only way to get to that finish line is by working hard. Because believe me, if you want to achieve something extraordinary, there are no shortcuts. And it's not easy, nor the race, nor the journey to the race. And if you ask me, the journey to the race is way more tougher than the race itself. To put things in perspective, I decided in 2014 that I wanted to do an Ironman. It is only in 2016 that I did it. It took me 2 years of relentless practice, dedication, and focus to get there. So every small race that I did, every shorter race, every milestone, every broken bone, every win, every loss, they were all aimed at the big picture of being an Ironman. Now here's the deal. A lot of people think that this is all I do. But as you heard, I also have a full-time job. So I put in, on an average, 18 hours training while having a full-time career. So while I'm juggling a job, my training, my social commitments, like everyone's like to have a good time once in a while, my family, as well, and all the everydayness of life. And sports has taught me how to strike that perfect balance, because otherwise it can just get all so overwhelming, and it can be really exhausting as well. And that is one thing I think which is so critical that I've learned, is that beautiful balance that you strike between your job and your passion, because you can't choose one or the other. The day you find yourself choosing one or the other, remember, it is not sustainable in the long run. Because if your job and your passion is the fire in you, then your support system and your family is the fuel that fires it. So you must always, always remember that balance is something very, very critical. One of the most important lessons that I have learned, and I have very grudgingly learned to accept as one of the biggest teachers, is failure. Sports has taught me how to manage failure. Because here's the thing, failure is not permanent. You only learn and grow from it. Sports has taught me that. It has taught me that even when you're down and you're beaten, you can get up and bounce back again. There have been times when my body is so broken, it is so beaten, I am exhausted, and I'm in excruciating pain. And the only thought in my head is that I want to give up. But I don't, because I have realized that the one thing that is most important is that we mentally give up way before we physically shut down. And that's what endurance sports has taught me. We are our worst enemies. All our battles need to be won here first. If you win here, any physical obstacle can be overcome. Life is not a race, it's a journey. And just like endurance sports, it tests you. As much as we think that it's about the physicality or the physical aspect of it, the real battle is right here. You are, like I said before, you are your own worst enemy. So you have to get out of your way to be successful. All these lessons that I am talking about today, if you truly understand the essence of it, believe me, they will stay with you forever, and they will manifest itself in every aspect of your life. I have a very long way to go, but I know it for a fact, and I can say this very confidently, that I am a better person today because of everything that I've learned from endurance sports. Sports has taught me to be limitless. It's taught me to challenge myself each and every day. And by sharing my journey and my story with all of you today, I wish to inspire each and every one of you to get out of your comfort zone and find that magic. Thank you.